sadly, even in the year 2016, animals are still being tested on for products and also other things like curing diseases and things like that. Although, is there validity to these experiments? Well, we all know that if you get shampoo in your eyes, it stings. Be careful when washing your hair. All those kind of things are obvious. We don't need to test on animals for cosmetics and products like this. It's been done, we know. Stop it. There's other alternatives to testing on animals. Use cruelty-free products. So simple. So if you're going to buy some new toothpaste or some new shampoo, just get on Google and write vegan shampoo or cruelty-free shampoo. Actually, you want to get the vegan one because sometimes it might not be tested on animals, but it might contain animal products, and that causes at least as much harm as testing on them. So vegan products, Google it. They sell them at the same supermarket you're already shopping at, is my guess. What about experiments? So that's a no-brainer. That is a no-brainer. I mean, you've got two choices. You've got buy a product that has been tested on animals that has caused horrific pain, unnecessary suffering, loneliness, just ill treatment, exploitation so you can put on some eyeliner or something like. Or you've got the other option, something that hasn't been tested on animals. That is a no-brainer, right? That is just easy. We don't even need to talk anymore about that. What about testing on animals? What about for diseases, for curing cancer and whatever? Well, when it comes to cancer, they estimate that 70% of cancer would be decreased if, like, there'd be an incidence of 70% less cancer if we didn't consume animal products. So that would be a really great way to prevent cancer before we even need to think about how we're going to treat it. So what else? And they say, you know, that they're doing experiments on animals to find cures and this and that. There are so many experiments that have been done on animals that have caused even more problems for the humans with these diseases. For example, they tried to get rats to get cirrhosis of the liver from alcohol, and alcohol wouldn't produce that in rats. So they believed that, well, that mustn't be the cause of it in humans either. And this false reading was the cause of prolonged suffering and death of humans getting cirrhosis of the liver from alcohol. Same with smoking. They tried to replicate lung cancer in beagles and they couldn't. Millions of people died because they believed that smoking didn't cause lung cancer. So there's a really good quote, and it's about the morality of using animals for experiments. And the quote goes like this. It's by Professor Charles Magel, if I said that right. The quote is, "Ask the experimenters why they experiment on animals, and the answer is because the animals are like us. Ask the experimenters why it is morally okay to experiment on animals, and the answer is because the animals are not like us." Yeah, they're like us, but they're not exactly the same as us. Often these kind of tests are producing the wrong readings that don't give us the help that we need anyway. And there are so many alternatives to this. You can use consenting humans for these medical tests. You can use human-grown tissue in a lab to experiment on. You can use computer-generated models and different things like that. Like, this is the year 2016. We don't need to be testing on animals. Actually, another thing that they did was they tested on animals for AIDS for years and years and years, and they got next to nothing out of it. And they spent so much money, so much time, so much resources on this, got nothing out of it. That money, that time, that energy, those resources could have been used to raise awareness about safe sex practices. They could have distributed condoms and clean needles, and they would have actually lowered the amount or prevented a lot of AIDS from spreading. So there's alternatives that can be so much better, and instead we just go straight to let's just use animals. They can't do anything about it. You know, they're vulnerable. Maybe we'll figure something out. If you want the most reliable data, you use humans. But we would never just use humans and grab them off the street because it's immoral. So why is it immoral to use humans that don't consent, but it's legal to use animals that don't consent? It's just because we're speciesist. We believe that our species is superior, that we can do basically whatever we want to any other species because we're the best. Humans are the best. And forgetting that, you know, they have lives and they're individuals and their lives matter to them as well. And, you know, I mean, right now we are slaughtering trillions, 1.5 trillion animals every year just for food, for a taste, because we're not doing it for necessity. We know that eating animals for our health is completely unnecessary, and we're likely to be healthy without eating animals. So right now, we're slaughtering all these animals for taste, because they taste good. Is there any wonder that when it comes to medical testing, it's still legal? Yeah, there's no problem a lot of people have with it, and they're in favor of it, because this is going to allegedly cure diseases. So why would people think it's okay to kill and eat animals for a taste, but not think it's okay to experiment on and use and kill animals to allegedly discover a cure for a disease? Of course they're going to think that's okay when they're happy to do the same just for a taste. The problem is that these aren't the results that are bringing about the cures that we need. In fact, often they're doing wrong, they're doing harm by creating like they're creating an idea that something is right or something is wrong, when in fact it's just specific to the species being experimented on and doesn't necessarily cross over to humans. We don't need to experiment on animals. We have other alternatives. If you were one of those animals stuck in that cage, lonely and aching for companionship and in pain and suffering, I know that you would want someone to stand up for what is going on. The best way to stand up for it is to become vegan. Stop using products that contain and have been tested on animals, and stop supporting animal experiments and testing. When enough people do that, they will be forced to find alternatives, and it's likely that these alternatives are going to produce far better results. So be on the side of justice for animals, become vegan.